No, you mean abolish. Newsom has closed 2 state prisons. During COVID, he released
everybody
tens of thousands of people from these prisons, okay? Now, he lied and told everyone that the people he released were all nonviolent offenders, all nonviolent offenders. They're not all nonviolent offenders.
Some are rapists.
I'll give you an example. I did deep research into this. I remember reading the story of one of the people who got let out during COVID, a woman who literally murdered her boyfriend and then drove hundreds of miles north to dump his body. She got released.
Jeez.
So how are you going to come to me and tell me, no, the only people who got released are nonviolent offenders? And by the way, let's say we give him that argument, right? We believe him. They were all nonviolent. Okay, what did you do after that? So you released tens of thousands of people in one of the most expensive states in the country during the coronavirus pandemic, where every business is shut down. There's no work.
Yeah.
What happened to them? Where'd they go? Where did they go? They ended up on the streets, probably super desperate. You're on the streets. You're super desperate. What are you going to do?
Recent graduate of Crime College.
Yeah, and you nailed it. And there was one guy that got arrested. He was in jail for attempted murder. They released him. It was a story in Cali before I moved there, and he committed murder. And he killed somebody once they released him because they were like, "We don't want you to get COVID in jail." Are you kidding me? To hell with them. They sealed their fate. Just really fast before you ask. And so if you had to guess right now, who's going to run? Let's say Biden's not. It doesn't look like there's no way this guy's going to run. If you had to pick 2 from the Democratic Party, I'm assuming Newsom, who would be number 2? If you had to guess, and we had to bet money, who would you bet?
Who would run?
Who would go? Who would be the Democrats' number 1? You'd say Gavin Newsom.
It's going to be Newsom.
100%.
I think Newsom is first in line. Yeah. I think they're also considering people like Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan.
Oh, God help us.
Look, I would take
her over it. That's horrible that we have to do that.
I can't. I could never vote for Newsom.
No,
I just
Kamala.
can't.
Not Kamala's useless.
Well, here's my question. Well, best of luck working
If it's a true open primary, Booker and Klobuchar are coming. If it's a true open primary. But I don't think it's going to be open primary. That's why I say the fix is in.
Yeah, when he's going to China, like, has a governor ever gone, Pat, to go meet with a world leader like that and talk about climate? By the way, China has one of the worst carbon footprints in the world, and they're over there talking about climate. Are you freaking kidding me?
Just to be clear on Newsom, best of luck out there in California.
Thank you.
Good luck trying to convince Californians to displace their political ideology and vote independent. I think 2/3 of Californians vote Democrat. That's not changing anytime soon. President Newsom, there he is. He's the man. You know, they say the old adage, like when you're running in primaries, run to the left or run to the right, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, and then pivot to the middle. So in California, he's just running in a primary. He's pandering to the leftists and the woke mob in California, and that's easy because you're not going to unseat that guy running to the right. We saw what happened with Larry Elder. 5 million votes, still didn't even come close. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
But talk about President Newsom as a general election candidate. He can't go far woke left. That's not going to win in America. So in my opinion, you know, I don't think he's that far left. I think he's pandering. Mm-hmm. He's a skilled politician. He's a force to be reckoned with. Anytime that you're doing what you're doing over there, showing up on Fox, dominating Hannity, doing his thing, he's meeting with Xi, now he's debating DeSantis. Whether you like him or not, he's a force to be reckoned with. You know DeSantis, Newsom very well. What would a President Newsom candidacy look like in a general election, not just pandering to the left?
Yeah, good question. He would sell out the American people to corporate interests, just like he did with PG&E, starting fires and destroying countless Californians' lives as a result of that. He bailed them out. He totally bailed them out. He has provided protection for them, even though they absolutely refused to update their century-year-old equipment, which everyone knew was going to lead to devastating wildfires. That's exactly what happened. The fire that happened in
Hawaii, same thing there, Maui?
Yes, but look, what happened in Hawaii is very similar. But one of the worst fires in California history happened in 2018. It was the Camp Fire. And that Camp Fire happened because a PG&E hook that was holding up the power lines broke.
What's PG&E for all of us?
Oh,
that aren't familiar with
it's
California?
Pacific Gas and Electric.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pacific Gas and
Is
Electric.
this the famous Trump Newsom meetup where they're raking leaves, doing all that
Yes.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that
Yes.
worked out well.
So
Which,
funny.
by the way, like that's the other thing about that moment with Trump. So he's not the most eloquent individual. Let's just put it that way. So when he talks about raking leaves, it's like, what is he talking about here? But if
He's volunteering for park ranger.
I love
That's what
him.
he's doing.
He likes to
I
rake,
alone can
the
fix
best
it.
rake.
All the leaves.
I love
but
rakes.
he did have
Squirrels
a
will be happy.
point.
They live
Yeah.
right
He
here.
did have a point. What I mean by that is you're supposed to do, like the Native Americans, they would do controlled burns, right? They would thin out the forests knowing that like wildfire season is coming and it's going to be unmanageable. You have to do controlled burns. The problem is communities don't like the controlled burns because the controlled burns like ruin the air quality temporarily.
For a couple weeks, yeah.
But there's really no other option. We're going to end up having these wildfires. And if you don't take care of the vegetation, it's going to make it a million times worse. So he had a point there.
Yeah.
And the media overwhelmingly like brushed off that
But
legitimate
Anna,
point.
what's the larger metaphor here? Because 99% of Americans are like, yeah, I don't give a shit about wildfires. But President Newsom,
Yeah.
as a general election candidate, what does that look like beyond what's going on in California?
Well, what we were talking about earlier, right? About the pharmaceutical companies and the lobbyists and how much influence they have over our politicians. Newsom is a prime example of someone who would be overwhelmingly influenced by corporate interests. I know it because that's exactly what happened with PG&E in the state of California. Okay? They fund his campaign heavily, and he looks out for them to the detriment of Californians who literally lost their homes as a result of PG&E's gross incompetence and unwillingness to upgrade
so what's the
their
difference between
equipment.
him and any corporate politician that just gets bought and sold by the lobbyists?
No,
and the
there's
big
not. But
pharma?
let's stay on this
What's
point
that
real
difference?
quick. Let's stay on there's not a difference. Where you're going, the short answer is there's not a difference. But let's go to the circle so people can see it. Gavin Newsom in the green been pushing green cars, green energy and electric cars in California, pushing hard, putting percentages out there that are almost can't be met. PG&E has gone to the governor's office and saying, which do you want? A multi-billion-dollar rebuild of the transport lines that go through the forest, or do you want more kilowatt opportunity out there? Because you've got to charge these cars. You have a brownout every time you have a hot summer.
That's
What
right.
do you think if everybody plugs in 25% EVs? I can't deliver the energy. There's going to be massive brownouts. Do you want me to build more capacity, or do you want me to fix all these transport lines? No, you're right. Build the capacity. That's the trade. Newsom made the trade.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.